Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to talk about my journey of being a burnt out entrepreneur and how I use cold exposure to help me overcome something that the doctors told me I wouldn't overcome, an autoimmune condition. My hope is that something in my story resonates with you, and maybe cold exposure is an answer for you, maybe it's not, but let's get into the video and let's see if it benefits you. It's about 2015, 2016, around that time. I've been married to my wife, Jilisa, for 5 years and business owner for 5 years. We were living in a small house. We had bills. We had a lot of stresses going on. And I got into business. I became an entrepreneur because I enjoyed fitness. So before I get into more of the cold exposure, more of me getting burnt out as an entrepreneur, I want to share a little bit about my entrepreneurial journey. We got married in 2012. My wife Jilisa was a nurse. She was studying. She also had an eating disorder, exercise addiction, which is another story for another video that I'll share with this channel if you want to check it out. And I was working electrical job. I was doing electrical work in the frigid winter of Edmonton, Alberta, minus 30 Celsius. That doesn't matter as much, and I knew I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something else. And I had trained for hockey. I enjoyed training. I enjoyed improving my physical fitness. And I thought, hey, maybe this is something I want to do. And I still vividly remember having a conversation with Jilisa in a Starbucks just off White Ave in Edmonton, Alberta, and saying, hey, I want to own a CrossFit gym one day. I had seen a commercial when I was playing hockey in Bible college, and I remember thinking, this is something I want to do. Now, at the time, I wanted to do it because I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed training. I enjoyed the idea of getting better and being competitive at that. So fast forward a year or two, I did another construction job. We moved back home, and Jilisa had graduated. She was doing some nursing, and it was still stressful, and we didn't have a lot of money. We had student loans, and we were living in a small house, and I hurt my back pretty bad doing construction work. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to get my training certification. I'm going to become a trainer. So I got hired on by a local gym that was actually in the rink, and Deanna was the manager at the time, and she hired me. And then she also let me know in the interview process that she was actually leaving to open her own gym. So I'll share that in a little bit here. And so I got hired, got my training certificate, started training there, and I don't know if I cracked over $1,000 a month for a couple months at least. It was very hard, very difficult, but Jilisa was very supportive of me in this, and I started to enjoy it. I really enjoyed it, and not just started to, because I enjoyed it all along. And then I left that gym to partner up on what is now Greater Purpose Health and Fitness, the gym that we own to this day, 12 years later. So we started in a 400 square foot garage. I didn't know anything about business ownership, and I just enjoyed training myself and training other people and learning more about the craft. So we started to expand, continue to expand. I'm still struggling with a back injury. It never really healed. I spent lots of money on that, traveled the world to try to figure this out. And in this process, we started to grow. People started to find out about us in this small 400 square foot garage that I would hit my head on the pull-up bar regularly. And we expanded, we incorporated, and moved into a bigger 3,000 square foot facility. Then we grew again, we expanded again about 2 years later, and that's about 5 years, 6 years into this business ownership journey. We expanded again. At that time, we moved into our house that we currently live in now, our first home we bought, Jilisa and I, and we also expanded into the other space. And my mom got cancer at the time as well, lung cancer. So there was a lot going on. Some good, some not good. and Jilisa was still struggling a little bit with her eating disorder. So a lot of stressors going on. And I actually remember, so I'm filming this in Canmore, Alberta. And I remember driving back home from a trip with Jilisa's family. We had gone biking and biked the Legacy Trail, if anyone knows that trail here. And I remember there was a hive on my neck, and I didn't really think much of it. And there was a couple more hives the next day. And then it went away for a while, and then it reappeared. And then a couple days later, weeks later, there was some more, then more, and then more. And then all over my body, I had hives. Painful, itchy hives on the palms of my hands, on the bottoms of my feet. Anytime they would make contact, so I couldn't lift weights because the barbell would make contact with my shoulders. And when it made contact, I would get hives in that location. It was on my face, it was everywhere. It burnt, it was itchy, it was very uncomfortable. So I went to the doctor and I asked, hey, what is this? And he said, basically chronic hives. That's what this is. So I said, hey, okay, what do we do about it? So they gave me really strong steroids to help me overcome this. I took them for a couple weeks, felt terrible on them, and nothing changed. And I was getting tired, I was sick, and it was getting worse. I couldn't work. The staff was amazing and covered for me, but nothing changed. And I asked, is this ever gonna go away? And he said, probably not. I might have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And that was, I remember sitting in the waiting room of the pharmacy and looking at this medication with my hood pulled up because I was embarrassed of all the hives all over my face and all over my hands. And just in pain and very uncomfortable and thinking, I'm gonna have to deal with this for the rest of my life. So I started to research. I started to think, look at different modalities of overcoming this. And one of the things I landed on, amongst many other things, was cold exposure. So I started to do cold showers. I started to experiment with that. I did some elimination diet to get rid of some foods to experiment with that. I stopped working out as much because I was working out a lot. And around that same time, we hired a business mentor. So all these contributed to that. But the big part of that journey would be cold exposure. And I'm grateful. I know God's hand of healing was obviously in there. And cold exposure had a really big part of that. So I don't know when it happened or how long it took, but eventually it started to go away. And like I said, there's a lot of contributing factors to that, but cold exposure would have been one of the biggest factors in my opinion. So once we were more situated in our house, and thank the Lord that my mom went through 2 major surgeries and she overcame cancer, and that was a big relief as well. We got business mentorship. We learned how to actually be business entrepreneurs, and that's actually what has a large role to play and why I'm a business and leadership coach now. And I want to help people, business owners, become time wealthy, scale their businesses without sacrificing their physical health, their mental health, their relational health, and their spiritual health and fitness. So I went into, if anyone's from Canada, I don't know if they have in the States or anywhere else in the world, but the Brick, I went into there and I asked the lady behind the counter, I said, do you have any chest freezers that can fit someone in? And she looked at me and stopped. I was like, oh, that doesn't sound good at all. And I corrected myself, no, I just want to sit in it. And that's better, but not good. So they didn't, or maybe I just left the store, I don't know. But that was, if you ever are looking for a chest freezer for cold exposure, don't ask if someone can fit inside of it. I found one on Marketplace. It was a little moldy, cleaned it up, filled it up, and that's where I started my cold plunging journey, physically sitting in the cold tub and doing it every single day, only missing a handful of days throughout the past 6 or 8 years, where that's cold shower or in the cold tub. And then, because this was a part of practice, it made me feel good. I felt energetic. I was in a happier mood, and a lot of other health benefits associated with it. I started doing it all year long, and I started to pair it with talking on camera, like this, except in a much shorter format. And the reason I did that is because I was nervous of what people would think of me, or how people would judge me if I shared my thoughts on social media. And I thought, what better way to do that than sit in a cold tub and share my thoughts on social media? That should get attention, and that should, in terms of, help me overcome this fear. Because inevitably someone's going to think I'm weird, or they're going to make fun of me. So that's what I did. I committed to doing that, sharing my thoughts in the ice tub. And 2021, cold exposure became really popular. And one of my videos went viral, accumulating 3.3 million views. And that's where I gained a lot of my followers. And I've been afforded a lot of opportunities, funny enough, from sitting in cold water, sitting in an ice tub, and sharing my thoughts. Many good things have come out of it. For those of you who do follow me on Instagram know that I recently lost one of my best buddies, Duke, and he would eat a carrot and a piece of ice every single time I went out there. No matter if it was minus 40, minus 50, or minus 20, he would be out there right beside me. So there's a lot of amazing things that happened. I got to collaborate with Mod Tub on their tubs. If you need a Mod Tub, make sure you check them out. And this whole process, from being burnt out, being overwhelmed, has accumulated into where I am today. To sitting here, where it all started, where I noticed my first hive, and what that was the catalyst to me starting cold exposure, to me hiring a business mentor, to me being a business mentor now, to helping people not repeat the same things. And I am forever grateful. I don't want to go through that process again, but then again, just thinking about how God's timing is so amazing, and I couldn't have orchestrated that. There's no way I could have thought of that. I could have thought of that, hey, I got this hive, and that's going to equate to me coming back to Canmore and creating my YouTube channel with my good friend Anthony, and hopefully share my story so that someone struggling with burnout, someone struggling with being stuck in their business, someone struggling with their spouse going through an addiction, an exercise addiction, eating disorder. That's what I want this channel to be. I'm going to share what I've learned. I'm going to share my struggles. I'm going to share how I've overcome these things and how God's been out there all the way. I'm going to share about my faith, about fitness, about business, about my family. And I really appreciate you being here and listening to my story. So if you want to ask me questions, if you have questions to ask, please email me, reach out to me. I'm happy to connect. I want this to be a place that you can feel heard and feel understood, and maybe see yourself in parts of my journey, whether they're good or bad.